How's it going, YouTube? It is Doc here, Doc Style Gaming, and we are back at it with another Anthem video for you all today. And this one is part 2 of our Anthem Javelin breakdown Redux. So, just like the last video, there was a bunch of changes to the Anthem articles for all of the Javelins, giving us a look at all of their gear attachments, multiple gear attachments, and their support abilities, and then also some more information as well. So, without further ado, let's just hop straight into this. Yesterday we talked about the Ranger. Today we are going to be breaking down the Storm Master race. So, let's get into all of the new information we got on the Storm, his abilities, his gear attachments, his support abilities, and so much more. So the article starts, a sound of thunder. The Storm Javelin arrived in Fort Tarsus as a rumor. Developed by the Dominion in the northern home of Straumheim, the Storm uses a powerful technology known as seals to boost its latent kinetic powers of its Lancer. The result is a javelin that can float effortlessly above the ground and unleash the raw energy of the Anthem. Only through painstakingly arcanist research has anyone outside the Dominion had the chance to wield the awesome potential of the seal technology. And while the Storm can channel unbelievable amount of elemental force, it has little in the way of defensive capabilities, and requires an expert pilot to stay above the fight and dish out damage from a safe distance. So that's just a little lore and background on the creation and the technology used in the Storm Javelins, which I still find pretty fascinating nonetheless. Next in the article is the Storm Javelin's weaponry, and like the Ranger, it says each Javelin has 2 weapon slots for their loadout, and can change from them along with the rest of their loadout between missions. The Storm Javelin is capable of wielding every weapon type except for heavy weapons, which can only be used by the Colossus Javelin. Which again, like I mentioned in my last Ranger breakdown video, definitely makes sense. Next, let's hop into the Storm Javelin's melee ability. The article states, every Javelin has an innate melee ability which can be used to deal damage to a target at very close range. This ability does not need to be earned, nor can it be changed. And according to the article, the Storm's melee javelin is known as Fiery Strike. The Storm uses the seals on its arms to deliver an explosive flash that deals damage and knocks back enemies that have gotten too close, giving the Storm time to reposition to a safe distance. Now, to me, this is a pretty fun and interesting melee. It seems to be almost like a flash grenade, but with a punch. It's going to stun and knock back enemies, giving you time to get out of the way if you need to. The Storm's all about staying high in the sky, so if you're down low on the ground and start taking a bit of heat, it looks like meleeing is your way to get out so that you can reposition and get back in the air. Next, we're about to be breaking down the Storm Javelin's kinesis abilities. In a brief summary of these gear attachments state, the seals which are built into the Storm can use various of gear to tap into the Anthem to release raw elemental energy in the form of kinesis abilities. Gear is picked up as loot during missions and can be equipped or swapped out between missions. Lancers can equip 3 kinesis gear abilities in total, 1 from each of the sections here. And the first section is the Storm Javelin's Blast Seals. And the first seal ability is the Lightning Strike, a targeted strike that deals lightning damage in an area. Now, this has been the most used ability that we've seen in almost every gameplay trailer of the Storm and all footage of the Storm. Now, it definitely looks like it's going to deal a lot of damage, but it definitely seems to be just a small targeted area. So some of these other abilities are going to be really good for other sorts of situations as well. This next ability is called Ice Storm. Creates a field of ice that deals damage, rapidly building to a final explosion of frost. Now, this ability looks to be a mix of crowd control and comboing potential with your team. It definitely seems to be the way to go for certain support builds in the game. The next ability is called Flame Burst, a quick explosion that deals fire damage at a target location. Now, this essentially sounds like the fire version of Lightning Strike. Instead of calling down lightning, it looks like you'll be calling down essentially a mini nuke of fire in a small targeted area, which still isn't bad and still opens up enemies to more comboing potential. Next ability is called Rime Blast. It says, it fires a flurry of ice projectiles that deal damage and freeze close range targets. Now this definitely seems to be a pretty decent crowd control. Anything that can stun lock or freeze enemies in their spot is always good for crowd control and will definitely come in handy in the game. And then the last of the blast shield abilities is called Living Flame, a burst of flame energy that seeks out and ignites targets. So here we have another seeking ability similar to how the ranger had seeking acid shots. So I'm wondering if all the javelins are going to have something similar to this, but again, my main thing is I wonder if this attack is going to do damage over time. So once it hits an enemy, if it'll keep them lit on fire and they'll continue to burn until they die or into a certain point. But even if it doesn't, again, it's always good for extra comboing potential. Now onto the Storm Javelin's focus seals. These attacks are essentially your quick firing focused beam attacks. And the first ability is called Hoarfrost Shards, a rapid fire shard of ice that slowly freezes targets in its place. Now we've seen this used a lot in almost every gameplay of the Storm. It definitely does seem to do a pretty decent amount of damage, but more or less it seems to be more used for crowd controlling, freezing enemies, slowing them down in their place. The next ability is called Fireball, a versatile fire ability that can be fired quickly in small shots or charged for a larger projectile that explodes. Now this definitely seems to have some pretty nice DPS potential, especially for its charged variant and depending on how much damage it actually deals. The next ability we have is Ball Lightning, a discharge of electric energy that can be bounced off walls to reach targets behind cover. Now honestly, this ability just sounds like fun. I really don't have any tactical use for it, but this just sounds like a fun ability and some pretty fun kills. And I can't wait to see some of the kills that players get when this game comes out. The next ability is called Glacier Beam. Fires a beam of powerful ice energy in a targeted direction. Now this ability sounds to be like a mid-tier damage dealing ability, mainly for applying combo status effects, but depending on how wide the actual beam is, you might be able to cover a pretty decent amount of enemies, and if it's a constant beam that you can kind of spread across enemies, again, that could be pretty good when it comes to comboing potential in the game. And then the last of the Storm Javelin focus seals are the Arc Burst. Unleashes a blast of lightning that will leap to nearby targets for heavy damage. Now this is a great ability. It is the perfect mix of DPS and crowd control. So essentially when you shoot this out, not only will it hit a target, it will continue to hit other targets around it, dealing massive amount of damage. That definitely sounds pretty awesome and I cannot wait to use that ability. That might actually be one of my main abilities that I have on my Storm Javelin. Now on to the last set of seals, which is the Javelin support seals or his support abilities. A brief description of it: the Storm support abilities play towards its strength of damage evasion and damage output, helping allies stay safe and take down enemies faster. The first ability, which we've actually seen in one of the most recent live streams, is called Wind Wall. Generates a defensive wall of wind that deflects incoming enemy projectiles. Now along with deflecting projectiles, we also saw in that live stream as well that you were able to shoot through the wall. Now this definitely does appear to be a really good defensive ability and I can't wait to see it used in action, and I feel like it's really going to come in handy in a lot of situations in the game. The next ability is called Nexus. Creates a field which provides gear cooldown reduction to teammates who enter its radius. Now if this sounds familiar, it's because this was originally muster point for the Ranger, but considering that the Ranger's muster point ability now increases damage, mixing that with Nexus, which provides gear cooldown, being able to use both of these abilities together is going to be crucial in so many situations and raids and boss fights. I can already see a team requiring you have a Ranger and a Storm with both Nexus and muster point on as a gear attachment. That's definitely going to be a really good combination and I can't wait to see how much damage that you'll actually be able to do mixing both of these gear abilities together, or support abilities together I should say. And then the last ability that was in this article is of course the Storm Javelin's ultimate ability, and it is called Elemental Storm. Now like the Ranger breakdown, I will be reading the last excerpt from the ultimate ability article also, but let's start with the Storm Javelin article and then we'll go to that one. So Elemental Storm says, manipulating the raw force of the Anthem, the storm emits successive blasts of frost, electricity, and fire, ending with a meteoric finale. And then the last little excerpt from the ultimate ability article just stated, this ability is great when enemies are in a contained area where they'll all be struck, which, you know, kind of makes sense. And then the article ends with the Eye of the Storm. With its elemental power and minimal armor, the Storm has a reputation for being a tempestuous javelin that can spell disaster for even an experienced pilot. But ask anyone who survived a fight with one, and they'll tell you that there is no doubting the strength of the Storm. Whether the Storm suits your playstyle as a pilot, your needs for a particular mission, or just the mood that day, it's a great addition to your arsenal of javelins. And then that is the end of that article. Now, again, you all know I am a Storm Master Race type of person. But let's be real. After listening to this and seeing how much elemental potential the Storm has, how can you not be rooting for the Storm? He actually can tap into the Anthem. He was created by the Dominion, our main villains of this game. Like, that just makes him 100 times cooler. Come on, let's be real. But all joking aside, everything that we've got from the Storm in this article is pretty interesting, and I really can't wait to see how he plays. Like I said, I already know I'm going to be maining the Storm, but I definitely want to use these abilities in game. All the different elemental potential just seems to be so great. Plus, being able to have a javelin that can actually harness the Anthem of Creation is awesome. So that's all I really got for this video, guys. Thank you all for watching this javelin breakdown. You guys are definitely the best. Like I say in all my videos, if you haven't already and want to, go follow me on all my social media accounts if you want to help out the channel. Patreon is in the description, as well as the links to all my social media accounts. Again, you guys are definitely the best. I will catch y'all on the next one. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the subs. Peace.